think I wouldn't find it? The money you're keeping away from me? I own you, and your money is my money.
But I worked hard for this money.
I don't care.
I hate you.
Are you expecting anyone?
No, I'm not.
Sorry about the noise. Movie night, you know how it is. What's up, man? Hope we good? That doesn't sound like a movie. But keep your noise down. I won't ask twice.
Darius, her boyfriend, turned back to face her. The smile was gone. What replaced it was the flat, calculated look she knew much better. The one that was taking stock, filing information away, deciding what it meant and what it would cost. "Go to bed," he said. No finale, no final word. Just the soft click of the latch, and then nothing. Zara stood in the middle of her kitchen in the apartment she had spent 14 months building toward, and she did not move for a long time. Her lip throbbed. The counter had left a bruise across the small of her back that she would feel for days. Her savings account, the one she had opened under her grandmother's maiden name, the one she had filled cent by cent, was now empty. She pressed her fingers to the kitchen counter, grounded herself on the cold of it. Then she walked to her front door. She didn't open it. She just stood close to it for a moment, close enough to hear the ordinary sounds of the building on the other side. The distant hum of the elevator, the muffled bass from someone's apartment 2 floors up, the particular quality of quiet that a hallway has at night. Her neighbor's door was directly beside hers. She could see the thin line of light beneath it. Unit 9D. She didn't know his name. Who is that guy? Yuri Kwan did not sleep. This was not unusual. Sleep had been a negotiation for him since Sao Paulo, something he could achieve in pieces, in the narrow hours between 3 and 6 a.m., if the work allowed it. Most nights it didn't. Tonight it definitely didn't. He sat at the desk in the back room of Unit 9D at 4:17 in the morning, in a plain black shirt and dark trousers, a glass of water untouched beside him, and watched the security footage for the second time. The cameras in the Ashford's corridors were high quality. He had made sure of that. He had made sure of a lot of things about this building, quietly, over the 18 months he had lived here. The kind of arrangements that didn't appear on any official record, but that meant the infrastructure worked the way he needed it to. He watched the man arrive, watched the way he moved down the 9th floor corridor, unhurried, like he owned the space, like he had been here before, or had decided that the fact he hadn't didn't matter. He watched the door to 9C open from the inside, which meant the man had a key. He filed that detail away. He watched what he could see through the kitchen window's reflection. Partial, fragmented, enough. Then he watched himself step into the hallway. He watched the woman appear in the gap beside the man. Watched her face for the 4 seconds she was visible before the door closed. Took in, again, for the second time, what he had taken in real time. The split lip, the held posture, the eyes that had said everything her mouth was not going to say in front of him. He had seen those eyes before. Not hers specifically, but that specific expression, the one that lived behind the eyes of someone who had learned that the safest thing was to need nothing out loud, to want nothing visibly, to survive by making themselves as small and undemanding as possible. He had seen it on Yuna's face the one time he had visited her in Sao Paulo, 8 months before the phone call. He had seen it, and he had told himself she was okay, that she was strong, that she would leave when she was ready, that forcing the issue would only make it worse. He had been wrong about all of it. He turned off the monitor. He picked up his phone and sent a single message to the contact saved under RA9C. Full profile. Her and whoever was with her tonight. 48 hours. He set the phone down. He picked up the glass of water and drank half of it. He looked at the wall for a while. Then he went to make coffee, because the night was over and the day was already starting and there was work to do. Renzo Alves called himself a researcher. Other people called him other things, depending on who they were and what they needed, and how much they understood about the infrastructure of Yuri Kwan's operation. The truth was somewhere in between. Renzo was the kind of man who could find anything about anyone in the time it took most people to decide where to have lunch, and who had the professional discipline to present what he found without editorializing. Mostly without editorializing. He laid the folder on Yuri's desk at 6:47 p.m. on the second day. Yuri was on the phone. He finished the call, set the phone down, and opened the folder. He read for 11 minutes without speaking.
Zara Collins, 27, freelance interior designer.
Portfolio attached, and Renzo had included it because it was, by any measure, exceptional. The kind of work that reflected someone who saw spaces differently than most people did, who understood proportion and color and the way light moved through a room. Client list growing, income modest but stable, social media presence minimal, which, Renzo had noted in the margin, had not always been the case. She had been more visible online 2-3 years ago. Then the activity dropped off sharply. No family nearby, mother deceased 2 years prior, ovarian cancer, 8-month decline. Father estranged, last known address Shreveport, no recent contact. A small circle of friends in Houston who, cross-referenced against her phone records from the past 18 months, she had largely stopped responding to. The hidden savings account Renzo had traced through a secondary bank she had opened under her grandmother's maiden name. 14 months of small, irregular deposits. The account balance as of 48 hours ago, 0. He turned the page. Darius Webb, 31, sales manager at a mid-size logistics firm in the Galleria area. 2 prior domestic disturbance calls, both to the apartment he and Zara had previously shared. Both dropped within 2 weeks of being filed, both with Zara listed as the complainant, who subsequently declined to cooperate. Outstanding debts across 3 credit lines totaling just under $40,000. A pattern of financial behavior that Renzo described in the margin as sloppy and damning, which, for Renzo, was practically a headline. 1 dependent, a mother in Beaumont, dialysis, twice weekly. The bills ran through Darius's account. Yuri read that detail twice. He closed the folder. Renzo waited. He had worked for Yuri for 6 years, and he had learned, in that time, that the waiting was part of the job. Yuri processed things in a particular way, thoroughly, quietly, without announcing his conclusions until he had stress-tested them from every angle. Renzo had seen him sit with something for a week before making a move. He had also seen him decide in 30 seconds and be exactly right. "She doesn't need to know any of this," Yuri said finally. Renzo nodded. He had expected that. And Webb? Not yet. Yuri stood, moved to the window, looked out at the Houston skyline, doing what it always did at dusk, burning copper and amber and a particular shade of violet that he had never seen in any other city. He'll come back. Men like that always come back. When he does, we'll know. And until then? Yuri didn't answer immediately. He was thinking about the way Zara Collins had appeared in the gap of her own doorway. The specific quality of her stillness. Not passive, not defeated. Something more complicated than that. She had been calculating, in real time, how to get through the next 5 minutes without making things worse. That was not the behavior of someone who had given up. That was the behavior of someone who was still fighting, in the only ways available to her. Until then, he said, nothing direct. He held the elevator on a Thursday morning. She was rushing, arms full of fabric samples and a portfolio case and a coffee she was somehow balancing with 2 fingers. And she hit the lobby button and the doors started to close, and he put his hand out and they opened again. She looked up, registered who it was. Something moved across her face. Not quite recognition, not quite something else. Complicated. "Thank you," she said. He nodded, pressed the lobby button again, stood at the back of the elevator and looked at his phone for the duration of the ride. When the doors opened, he stepped out first and held them. She passed him without another word. He watched her cross the lobby, efficient, purposeful, the portfolio case shifting on her shoulder. And then he turned toward the parking structure. That was all. That was enough. The grocery bags were 4 days later. She came in from the parking garage with 3 of them, all heavy, distributed wrong, the kind of unbalanced load that happens when you're trying to avoid making 2 trips, and her phone wedged between her ear and her shoulder, and her keys in her teeth. He was heading toward the elevator from the opposite direction. He didn't ask. He reached out and took the heaviest bag. She startled slightly, then realized. Then, and this was the part he noticed, she almost said, "You don't have to do that," which was what people said when they had learned not to accept help. She caught it, pressed her lips together instead, nodded. He carried the bag to the elevator, set it down outside her door, walked back to his apartment. He could feel her looking at him for a moment before she went inside. He didn't turn around. The soup was the following week. She had come down to the lobby at 6 a.m. He'd caught it on the corridor camera, with the look of someone who had not slept and had given up pretending they were going to. She had stood in the lobby for a few minutes, then gone back upstairs. He made the caldo verde himself. He always had the ingredients. It had been his mother's recipe, his Brazilian mother, Camila, who had made it every time anyone in the family was sick or sad or could not explain what was wrong, which amounted to the same thing in her view. Green and warm and simple, and exactly the kind of food that said, "I know something is wrong even though you haven't said so." He left it outside her door. No note. When he checked the corridor camera an hour later, the container was gone. He heard her scream on a Tuesday night. Not loud, the building was well insulated, and the walls between units were solid. But the walls between 9C and 9D were thinner than most, some quirk of the building's design that he had noticed in his first week, and that had never mattered until now. A sharp, short sound, cut off quickly, the kind that came from someone who woke themselves with it. He was at her door in 30 seconds. He had changed into a plain black shirt, no suit. He knocked. A long pause, then footsteps. The door opened 4 inches on the chain, and he saw half of her face, eyes still wide from whatever the nightmare had been, hair loose, a thin t-shirt and sleep shorts. She looked at him like she wasn't sure he was actually there. He gave her a second to confirm that he was. "Bad night?" he asked. She let out a slow breath, the kind that was trying to pass itself off as normal. "Always Tuesdays," she said, like it was a joke, like she had made peace with it. "Thursdays for me," he said. The chain came off the door. She didn't open it wide, just enough to lean against the frame on her side, while he leaned against the frame on his. The hallway was empty and quiet, and lit in the particular amber of the building's night lighting, which turned everything softer than it actually was. They talked. Or rather, she talked, eventually, in the careful way of someone testing ice, and he listened in the way he had learned to listen when the listening was more important than anything he could say. He didn't push. He didn't offer solutions. He didn't make the face people made, the softening, pitying face, when they heard things they didn't know what to do with. He had known what it sounded like when someone was trying to survive inside a situation they couldn't escape. He had known it once before, from a different side of a different phone, and he had been too far away and too convinced that it would work itself out. He was not far away now.
She told him about the first time Darius had hit her. She told him about the savings account, not the amount, just the fact of it, the months of it, the particular exhausted grief of watching it disappear. She told him about the way she had started to believe, somewhere in year 2, that she deserved it. She said that last part quickly, like she was trying to get past it before she could decide not to say it. He looked at her. "You didn't," he said. Simply. Not with the emphasis people used when they were trying to convince someone of something. Just fact. She looked back at him. Something shifted in her face. Not relief, not yet, but something. They stayed in the doorway until the sky outside the window at the end of the hall started to go gray at the edges. When she finally said goodnight, her shoulders were 3 inches lower than they had been when she opened the door. He went back inside. He did not sleep for another hour. 2 weeks later, on a quiet Wednesday evening, she knocked on his door. He opened it. She was standing in the hallway in workout clothes, leggings and an old university hoodie, hair pulled back, holding 2 water bottles with a slightly embarrassed look of someone who had made a decision and was now committed to it. "You said you wanted to teach me something," she said. He looked at her for a moment. "I did," he said. "So," she lifted the water bottle slightly. "Teach me." He considered her, the set of her jaw, the way she was standing, still that learned smallness in her shoulders, still the habit of taking up less space than she needed, but underneath it, something that hadn't been there 3 weeks ago, something that was trying to surface. He stepped back from the door. "3rd floor gym," he said. "Give me 5 minutes." She nodded. She turned to go. "Zara." She stopped. She had not told him her name. The first night he had said it through the door, and she had noticed, and she had not yet asked how he knew it. She was asking now, in the way she asked things, quietly, with her eyes. "What you're feeling right now," he said. "That thing that made you knock on this door tonight?" He met her eyes. "Don't lose that. We're going to need it." She held his gaze for a moment. Then she turned and walked toward the elevator, water bottles in hand, and something about the way she moved was, just slightly, just barely, different. He closed the door, got changed. It was the beginning of something. He wasn't sure yet what to call it. He was sure it was necessary. And he was sure, for the first time in a long time, that this time he was not going to be too late.
The 3rd floor gym at the Ashford was small and well-equipped and, at 7:30 on a Wednesday evening, completely empty. Zara stood in the middle of the mat and felt immediately ridiculous. She was wearing leggings and a university hoodie that was 2 sizes too big, and her old cross trainers. And she had pulled her hair back twice because the first attempt hadn't held. And she was standing in front of a man who moved like he had been born knowing exactly how much space his body occupied, which was the opposite of how she felt in her own skin at this particular moment. Yuri had changed into dark training clothes. No suit, no watch. He looked different without the suit. Not smaller, not less, just more. She wasn't sure how to finish that thought, so she stopped trying. He looked at her, standing in the middle of the mat. "Have you ever trained before?" he asked. "Does a Zumba class in 2019 count?" "No." "Then no." He almost smiled. She caught the edge of it before it disappeared. He moved to the mat and stood across from her. Not too close, not so far that it felt like a demonstration, just present, the way he always was. "Here's what I'm going to teach you," he said. "Hapkido, Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu. One is about redirecting force, using what someone brings at you against them. The other is about what happens when someone gets close, when they're already on top of you, when the distance is gone." He paused. "Both matter for what you're dealing with." Zara nodded. She understood what he wasn't saying, that he had looked at her situation specifically, at the specific shape of the danger she was in, and chosen accordingly. "First thing," he said, "your stance.
He showed her. Feet shoulder-width apart, weight slightly forward, hands up but loose. Not clenched, not braced, just ready, natural. Like a conversation, not a wall. She tried to replicate it. "You're standing like you're waiting to be hit," he said. She blinked. "What?" "Your shoulders, you're already pulling them in." He said it matter-of-factly, not unkindly. "You've been doing it for a while. It's a habit. We're going to break it." She straightened, consciously pushed her shoulders back. "Better," he said. "Now, again." The first session lasted 45 minutes and covered almost nothing. Stance, basic footwork, one deflection drill that she got wrong 8 times before she got it right once. By the end, she was sweating and slightly embarrassed, and her right wrist ached from where she had torqued it badly on the 6th attempt. "Sorry," she said on the 8th repetition, when her feet crossed and she stumbled. "Stop apologizing," he said. "I'm sorry." She caught herself, made a face. He looked at her steadily. "You made a mistake. Fix it. There's nothing to apologize for." "Apologizing is it's a reflex." "I know," he said. "That's why we're going to break that one too." She looked at him. He was serious. Not unkind, never unkind, she was learning, but direct in a way that left no room for the small performances of self-deprecation she had gotten so used to deploying. He did not need her to be smaller than she was. He was not reassured by it. He simply waited for her to be the actual size of herself, with the patience of a man who had decided that waiting was worth it. It was, she realized on the walk back upstairs, the strangest feeling she had experienced in a long time. They trained 3 times a week, Wednesday evenings, Saturday mornings, Sunday afternoons. He was always there before her, already warming up, the gym already set the way he needed it. She started to notice the details, the way he moved through the space without wasted motion, the way he watched her with the particular attention of someone running calculations, the way he corrected without criticizing. One word usually. Wrist. Wait. Again. By the 3rd week, she stopped apologizing for mistakes. By the 4th week, she stopped flinching when he moved quickly toward her. The full body recoil she hadn't even known she'd had until it started disappearing. He noticed. She could tell by the way he didn't say anything. The particular quality of his silence when something had shifted, and he was logging it without making it into a moment. "You're thinking less," he said one Saturday, after she had redirected an approach correctly 3 times in a row without pausing to calculate. "Is that good?" "It's the whole point. Your body knows what to do. We're just reminding it." She turned that over. Reminding it. Like the knowledge had always been in her, and the training was just clearing the obstruction. Like she wasn't being built from nothing, but excavated from something. She liked that. She held on to it. Week 5. A Sunday afternoon, gray Houston sky outside the high windows, the gym quiet except for the sound of them on the mat. He was teaching her the hip throw, the mechanics of it, how to use someone's forward momentum and the pivot of her own hips to take their weight off their feet entirely. He had walked her through the motion slowly, in pieces, and now they were drilling it at half speed. She got the grip right. She got the pivot right. She felt his weight shift, that brief, extraordinary moment when the math of leverage and momentum resolved in her favor, and she pulled. His feet left the ground, not by much, not for long, but they left the ground, and he hit the mat with the controlled thud of someone who knew how to fall, but had still, genuinely, been taken off his feet. For a full second, she just stared at him on the mat. Then she laughed. Not a polite laugh, not a surprised laugh. It came from somewhere in her belly, loud and genuine and entirely undignified, and it bounced off the gym walls, and she couldn't stop it and didn't try. Yuri looked up at her from the mat. She expected something neutral, the calibrated acknowledgement she had learned to expect from him, the good, or the again, or the single nod. Instead, something crossed his face that he didn't manage in time. something open and a little undone and unmistakably warm. He looked at her laughing in the middle of the mat, hair coming loose from its band, chest heaving, hands pressed to her face like she was trying to contain it. And he didn't try to put any particular expression back in place. He just looked. Then he stood up, and they ran it again. It was a Wednesday, 6 weeks in. They had been working for an hour, and she was tired in the good way, the way that came from using her body deliberately, from demanding things of it and having it comply. Her hoodie was long gone, tied around her wrist. Her hair was a disaster. She didn't care. They were cooling down, both of them slightly breathless, her back against the wall and him a few feet away, towel around his neck. The gym was quiet. Houston had gone full dark outside the windows. She said it before she decided to. "You're the first person in years who's made me feel like I'm worth protecting." It came out plain, not dramatic, just true, the way things were when you stopped filtering them. Just the bare fact of something you had been carrying for a long time, set down. She felt him go still, not with discomfort, with attention. She kept her eyes on the window. "I know that's a weird thing to say, I just..." She stopped, shook her head slightly. "I spent 3 years being told I was the problem. That if I was better, easier, quieter, less, then things would be different. And I believed it. I actually believed it." She paused. "You look at me like I'm someone worth the effort. I hadn't realized how long it had been since anyone did that." The room was quiet for a moment. Then he moved. He didn't rush it. He crossed the space between them the way he did everything, with intention, without wasted motion. And when he was close enough, she could see the detail of his eyes, dark and direct, and warmer than she had initially understood them to be. He stopped. He lifted his hand and tucked a piece of hair back from her face. His fingers were light against her jaw. Then he kissed her. Slow, deliberate. The way a man kisses someone when he has been thinking about it for longer than he has been willing to admit, and has finally decided that pretending otherwise was taking more effort than it was worth. She kissed him back. It lasted a few seconds and felt longer than that. Not in a disorienting way, but in the way that moments do when they are actually significant, when your nervous system registers them differently from the ordinary movement of time. When she pulled back, she kept her eyes closed for a beat. When she opened them, he was looking at her the same way he had looked at her when she had made him laugh on the mat, like she was something worth paying attention to. "Okay," she said. He almost smiled. "Okay," he agreed. 3 days later, Darius found her in the parking garage. She had been expecting it. Not on that day specifically, not in that specific hour, but she had known in the way you know things when you have spent years learning someone's patterns. He had been building toward it. The texts had escalated all week. Questions first, then accusations, then the particular cold silence that was always worse than the noise because it meant he was deciding something. She was heading to her car for a client meeting in River Oaks. Portfolio in hand, keys out, moving fast. He stepped out from the shadow between 2 parked SUVs. "You've been ignoring me," he said. She stopped, kept her hand on her keys. "I've been busy." "That's not an answer." She looked at him. He was dressed for work, his good suit, the charcoal one, which meant he had come here on his way somewhere else, which meant he had planned this. He thought he was calm. She could see the tension under it, the coil of something that hadn't been released yet, looking for its opening. "I think you should go," she said. He moved fast. He always moved fast. She should have expected it. She had expected it. His hand swinging up in the gesture that was half warning and half promise. The one she had seen 100 times. The one that said, "You pushed me here. This is your fault. You know what comes next." And Zara moved. She didn't think. That was the thing. There was no calculating, no freeze, no negotiation with her own body. She just moved, the way Yuri had been drilling into her for 6 weeks. the way that had gone from technique to reflex to something that now lived in her muscles rather than her mind. She stepped to the side. She caught his wrist with both hands. She turned her hips, pivoted, loaded, committed, and used the forward momentum he had thrown at her like a gift and redirected it, hard, into the concrete pillar 2 feet behind her. He hit it shoulder first. The sound was solid, the kind you felt in your back teeth. Darius stumbled, caught himself on the pillar, turned around, and Zara Collins was standing in the parking garage of the Ashford with her feet planted and her shoulders back, genuinely, fully back, not performed, not forced, just back, and her eyes completely clear. No flinch, no apology, no calculation about how to make the next 5 minutes survivable. Just her, just the ground under her feet, just the fact of what she had just done. Darius stared at her. She watched the shock move across his face, through it, past it, and settle into something she had never seen there before. Something that reorganized his features and made him look, briefly, like a different person entirely. He was afraid of her. She could see it, clear as anything. He was actually afraid. He straightened up, his mouth opened, closed. Some rapid private calculation played out behind his eyes, and then he turned and he walked away. Fast. Faster than a man who had just tried to intimidate someone and would like to maintain the fiction that he hadn't. He was almost running by the time he turned the corner. Zara stood in the parking garage and listened to the sound of his footsteps fade out. Then, from somewhere deep and incredulous and entirely alive, she laughed. It echoed off every concrete surface, loud and free and completely unstoppable. She pressed her hands over her mouth, and the laugh came through anyway. Came from somewhere that had been locked for 3 years and had just, finally, blown the door off its hinges. She stood there for a full minute, just breathing. She knocked on Yuri's door, still buzzing, still lit from the inside with something that didn't have a name yet, but felt like the beginning of one. He opened it. He took one look at her face. "Tell me," he said. So she did. Standing in his doorway, then in his kitchen, then on his couch. The words coming fast, the whole thing, every detail. The way he had stepped out from between the cars, and the way his hand had come up, and the way she had simply moved, and the sound of him hitting the pillar, and the way his face had looked when he turned around and finally seen her. Yuri listened to all of it. His face stayed steady. That particular steadiness of his that she had come to understand was not absence of feeling, but the disciplined containment of it. When she finished, he looked at her for a long moment. Then he stood up and came back from the kitchen with a bottle of wine. Deep red, the label in Portuguese. Something she couldn't read, but that he clearly knew well. "My mother's favorite," he said, pouring 2 glasses. "For occasions that deserve something good." She took the glass, looked at him across the kitchen island. "He ran," she said, like she still couldn't quite believe it. "He ran," Yuri confirmed. She shook her head, laughed again, smaller this time, private. Then she set the glass down and looked at him seriously. "I need to say something." He waited. "I'm done with him, not trying to be done, not almost done, all the way done, whatever that takes." She held his gaze. "And I need you to know that what you did, the training, the soup, the doorway at 2 a.m, that wasn't nothing. You saw me when I had completely stopped seeing myself. I don't know how to explain what that did for me, but it was everything." Yuri looked at her for a moment. Then he set his own glass down. He kissed her again, slower than before, and with more certainty on both sides, and neither of them pulled back quite as quickly. When they finally separated, she rested her forehead against his briefly. Outside, Houston hummed on in the dark. In the building, in the corridors, in the small machinery of cause and effect that neither of them could fully see yet, something was already moving. Darius Webb had run from a parking garage, and men like Darius Webb did not simply stay run. But that was tomorrow. Tonight, the wine was good and the storm felt distant, and Zara Collins was still breathing and still laughing, and entirely, finally, herself. The knock came at 9:43 on a Friday morning. Zara heard it from Yuri's kitchen, where she was standing with a mug of coffee and her laptop open to a client brief she had been staring at for 20 minutes without reading. She had stayed over, not for the first time this week, and Yuri had left early for something he didn't explain and she didn't ask about, because she was learning the shape of him, and one of its features was that some things he carried alone until he had resolved them. The knock was not at Yuri's door. It was at hers, 9C, next door. She set the mug down. Then she heard voices in the corridor, more than one. She crossed to the front door of 9D and pressed her ear to it the way she hated herself for doing, the way she'd had to do so many times before, listening for the temperature of what was outside before she could decide whether it was safe to be in it. Darius's voice, and underneath it, lower, the murmur of other people, more than one other person. Her phone was already in her hand. She typed fast. "He's here. Outside 9C. He brought people." She stared at the screen. 30 seconds. 40. Then, "Don't open the door. Stay in 9D. Then, 5 seconds later, "I'm on my way up." She heard the elevator before she heard anything else. Then the corridor. Footsteps. One set, unhurried. The particular rhythm she had memorized without meaning to over 7 weeks of training sessions and doorway conversations and quiet evenings that had become the steadiest thing in her life. Then Darius's voice, sharper now, aware of something shifting. "Who are—" "Step back." 2 words, flat, absolute. She opened the door of 9D 4 inches and looked through the gap. Yuri was in the hallway in a dark suit. He must have come directly from wherever he had been, no time to change, which meant he had moved fast to get here. He stood between Darius and the door to 9C like a wall that had chosen its position and was not interested in negotiating. Darius had brought 3 men. She didn't recognize any of them. Broad, deliberate, the kind of people you hired for their size and their willingness to use it. They fanned out slightly behind Darius, the way people did when they wanted to communicate numbers. Yuri looked at all 4 of them the way he looked at things he had already decided to resolve. Not with contempt, not with relish, just assessment. "We're just here to talk," Darius said, still performing, still running the charm at a moment when it was clearly not the right instrument. To Zara, "This is between us, man. You should step aside." "No," Yuri said. "You don't know who I know exactly who you are." Yuri's voice didn't change temperature. "Darius Emmanuel Webb, 31, Galleria sales manager. You have outstanding debt across 3 lines of credit, 2 dropped assault charges, and a mother in Beaumont who depends on your income. I know considerably more than that, but we'll start there." Dead silence in the corridor. Zara watched Darius's face from the gap in the door. She watched the charm drain out of it completely. Not replaced by anger, not yet, but by something more unsettling. The particular blankness of a man who has just realized the room is a different shape than he thought. "Who are you?" Darius said. "The last person," Yuri said quietly, "who is going to tell you to leave." What happened next was fast. One of the 3 men moved first, the one on Darius's left, who was apparently either braver or less perceptive than the other 2. He stepped forward and reached out. Yuri was already gone from where he'd been standing. Zara had spent 7 weeks training with this man. She had felt his speed in controlled increments, carefully calibrated for a learning environment. She had never seen it uncalibrated. It was, she would think later, sitting with her knees pulled up on his couch trying to process it, like watching someone skip frames. He was in one place, and then he was in another place, and the man who had reached for him was on the floor before the motion had time to fully register. The second man lasted approximately 4 seconds longer. The third made a better effort. He was quick, and he knew something about how to use his body in a way the first two hadn't. It didn't matter. Yuri moved through him with a particular economy of someone who was not using any more force than the situation required. Enough. Precise. Done. All three on the floor. Darius had not moved. He stood in the middle of the corridor, looking at 3 men on the ground, and then at Yuri Kwan, straightening his jacket, unhurried, not even particularly winded. And whatever calculation Darius Webb had run when he had decided to come to the Ashford with 3 people today was now fully, finally, catastrophically complete. Yuri looked at him. "Last time," he said. 2 words. The same temperature as everything else he said. No emphasis, no theater. Just a fact delivered from a man who did not make promises he didn't intend to keep. Darius looked at Zara's door. He looked at Yuri. He looked at the floor. Then he turned and walked to the elevator, fast. The 3 men gathered themselves and followed in silence. The elevator doors opened, swallowed them, closed. The corridor was quiet. Yuri turned to 9D's door. Zara already had it open. She was standing in the frame looking at him, and she realized her hands were shaking. Not from fear, she understood distantly, but from the adrenaline of standing in the gap of a door for 3 minutes, watching the specific shape of the life she had been trying to escape from run out of options. "You okay?" he asked. "Yes." She looked at the empty corridor. "Are you?" He looked faintly surprised by the question. "Yes." She nodded. Took a breath, let it out slowly. "Okay," she said. "I need to pack a bag." "Okay." "I'm not..." She stopped, started again. "I'm not running. I just don't want to be in there tonight. I don't want to be alone in there tonight." "You don't have to be," he said, simply. She went into 9C and pulled a bag from the top shelf of the closet and packed it with the focused efficiency of someone whose hands needed something to do. Chargers, a week of clothes, her work drives, her good face wash. She moved fast, and she didn't look around at the apartment too much because she was not ready yet to have feelings about it, and she needed to get out before the feelings arrived. She came back into the corridor with the bag on her shoulder. Yuri held the door to 9D open. She walked in. That evening, Renzo called. Yuri stepped into the back room to take it. Zara sat on the couch with her laptop and pretended to work on the client brief, and she listened to the low, indistinct murmur of his voice through the door without trying to make out the words, because she was learning the shape of him, and one of its features was that some things he carried alone until he had resolved them. 20 minutes later, he came back. "It's handled," he said. She looked up. "What's handled?" He sat in the chair across from her. He held her gaze. "Renzo has been building a file on Webb for the past several weeks. Financial fraud at his company. Enough for termination and potential prosecution. 2 assault settlements that were buried quietly. The full debt picture." He paused. "We sent him a package this morning." "What kind of package?" "The dossier. A bus ticket. A prepaid card. Enough for 6 months of his mother's expenses, so she doesn't pay for his choices." He paused again. "And a card." Zara looked at him. "What did it say?" 4 words. He met her eyes. "This is the only offer." The room was quiet for a moment. "And if he doesn't take it?" "He'll take it," Yuri said. Not with bravado, with the simple certainty of a man who understood leverage. She looked at him for a long time. "You did all of this." "Renzo did most of it." "Yuri." He was quiet. "Thank you," she said. He nodded once, then, "Are you hungry? I'll cook." She blinked.
You cook? My mother was Brazilian, he said, already moving toward the kitchen. Of course I cook. She closed the laptop. For the first time in as long as she could remember, she didn't think about Darius Webb for the rest of the evening. 10 days passed. She went back to 9C during the days, worked her client brief, took 2 new inquiries, started a mood board for a River Oaks townhouse that she was genuinely excited about. She trained in the gym on Wednesday and Saturday. Different now, the sessions. Looser and more focused at the same time. Something having shifted between them that made the training feel less like instruction and more like conversation. She came back to 9D in the evenings. Neither of them made a formal arrangement of it. It simply became the pattern. The way patterns do when 2 people stop negotiating and start just being. On the 10th morning, a Tuesday, she was on Yuri's couch with coffee and her laptop and the River Oaks mood board, and the morning light was coming through the south-facing windows in long, flat bars the color of warm honey, and it was, genuinely, a good morning. Her phone buzzed. She glanced at it. Unknown number, but the Houston area code she recognized. Her stomach tightened by reflex. She picked it up. A text. 3 words. I'm done. Goodbye. She read it once, read it again. Read a 3rd time to make sure her eyes were doing what she thought they were doing. Then something happened that she had not anticipated and could not have planned for. 3 years came out of her all at once. Not in a way that had any dignity to it. Not the clean, cinematic kind of crying that happened in movies. A few tears, a composed face, a meaningful look. This was the other kind. The kind that started in your chest and moved up through your throat and came out as something that was not quite crying and not quite gasping, and was actually both at the same time. And once it started, it could not be stopped or managed or redirected. She pressed her hand over her mouth. It didn't help. 3 years of hypervigilance. 3 years of calculating every word before she said it. 3 years of bruises and isolation, and $3,190 scraped together cent by cent, because the only form of hope available to her was a hidden bank account. 3 years of learning to make herself small enough to survive inside a life that had been built to contain her. Gone. 3 words from an unknown number, and it was just gone. And the space where it had been was enormous and unfamiliar, and flooded with something she could not yet identify because she had not felt it in long enough, that she had almost forgotten what it was. Yuri came out of the back room. He took one look at her. He crossed the room and sat beside her on the couch. He didn't say anything. He didn't reach for her phone to see what she'd read, didn't ask questions, didn't try to coach her through it or hurry it along or tell her it was okay. He just sat, present, steady, the way he always was. She cried until she didn't anymore. It took a while. When it was finally done, when she surfaced from it and could breathe in a straight line again, and the light through the windows was still honey gold, and the coffee was still warm enough to hold, she looked up at him. Her face was a complete disaster, and she didn't care at all. "It's over," she said. "It's over," he confirmed. She kept 9C. That was important to her, and she needed him to understand it, and he did, immediately, without requiring explanation. Her name on the lease, her key, the space she had bled 14 months to afford. It was hers, and it was going to stay hers. She repainted it in October, a warm terracotta in the living room that she had been thinking about since the day she signed the lease and had never let herself actually buy. A deep sage green in the bedroom.
Curtains she chose because she loved them, and not for any other reason.